Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Thomas.
And we're the co-founders of Cytix. And today we're joined by Stuart Coulson. I do what his job title is.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Go on, Stu, what's your job title?
I am Cyber Ecosystem Project Manager for the University of Manchester, which is a great job title because it barely fits on a business card.
Fantastic news. Stuart's been in the industry for 20
odd.
plus years?
Yeah, too many.
And today we're going to find out all about it. Tom, do you want to kick us off today?
Sure. So I thought we'd talk about a couple of things today. Things that I know are quite close to your heart and things that maybe you're a little bit diametrically opposed. The first thing being the lies that we tell ourselves in cybersecurity, and the second thing being about the Manchester cyber sort of ecosystem boom.
Yep.
So to kick off, let's talk a little bit about the lies that we tell ourselves in cyber. I think probably one of the first places to go there is buzzword bingo.
I've been interviewed about this before. Where did it come from? Why did I write it? And then why is it taking the turn it has done? So for those who don't know, I write a blog on my own website, personal website, about the buzzwords that we use in cyber. And it started because it was at InfoSec in London in the days when it was at Olympia, and it was a lot more fun. And I literally walked around and there was people just using these words on stands. Like, they're like the wrong words put together, trying to make a sentence. I think my favorite was, and they still do it actually, it's triangulation of AI. And I was like, what? And I went out to this chap, and you could tell he was a sales guy with a skin tight suit and his brown pointy shoes, and he was about 15 years old, stood there, his coiffured hair, and I said, Chris, that's what's triangulation of AI. He went, do you have AI? I thought, well, no, but I'll say yeah. I said, yeah. He went, have you ever had it triangulated? Went, no. He went, that's what we're for. And I think it was at that point there, it was literally like, for me, ripping the Band-Aid off this industry. And I had this really epiphany of, we just talk so much nonsense in this industry about just random buzzwords that just get thrown together. So I thought, well, the best fun you can have is turn it into a game. Let's get everyone involved. Can you find the buzzwords that really hurt us as an industry? And it's not, I'm just having a pitch to the industry, you're all awful at it. This is genuine buzzwords, which I would declare as hurt the industry. Let me define what I mean by that. So, for example, AI. Everyone right now, if you haven't got the word AI, you're out the water. But are you actually using AI? Because as a customer, if you find out that this company's vendor you're buying from doesn't use AI, well, you just undermine the entire product. So what else lies like within this company? So straight away, you've got to be authentic in what your message is. The second thing is, well, what do you mean by AI? The complexity of that just alone is just horrendous. So then I've kind of expanded it, and I've written another blog, which is about, I created we're all nation grade state and military grade encryption. So I decided I was going to make my own scale. So there is actually the local council grade, and there's Dave grade. He's the IT guy who just breaks stuff. And I basically went to universe grade, which is where you can take your technology, take it anywhere across the universe, and it will be encrypted and safe. Just to literally have a pop back at those people and say, I use military grade encryption. What's the point? If you know most military, this is an international audience, you're going to have a look at your own military. They're not great with tech. So saying it's military grade is like saying, this is really, really awful stuff. That's where it started from.
But it's interesting you say, what's the point? But then you also say that customers, if you don't say you're using AI or you don't say the latest and greatest buzzword,
yep,
then that can actually hurt you. So isn't there a point to it? Isn't there a reason why it exists?
There is. And it comes down to relevance to your product, your service, to what you're doing. But are you actually doing it, or you're saying it because it's the right buzzword to say today? You two are too young to remember this. I'm old, so I can say this. Back in about 2000, there was a buzz phrase, and it was lowercase x, SP. We're all service providers. I remember having to write the alphabet of SPs. So there was a TSP, which is telecom service provider. And these were internet-enabled telecoms. When it started, because we had ASP, and for the older people in the audience still remember ASPs, because application service providers, these online websites provided applications to you, a bit like Citrix but on steroids. Nowadays, we call them as a service. It's exactly the same thing, we just rebranded it. Where's its relevance? Are we actually doing as a service, or we just got a website that delivers something? Be a bit more honest about it. Your customers will then come on that journey with you, or at least you're honest about what you're doing. I know something close to your heart is pen testing. Are you actually doing pen testing, or are you just doing vulnerability scanning? What are you actually doing? Don't tell me you're using military grade secrets to hack into someone's business. You're not. You're running a vulnerability scan. That's the extent of your organization. Tell them we are experts in vulnerability scanning. I'd hire you for that. But if you tell me you do pen testing, you do vulnerability scanning, I get breached. Guess who I'm going to come after?
Yeah, how much of this is like, you see the AI has been around for a lot longer than the last 2 years, but it certainly feels like it's just been invented in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Or the last year. And I don't know, we talk a lot about how, there's endless amounts of cybersecurity companies now. All you've got to do is walk the floor at InfoSec to find, 15 vendors in every space. Some of those spaces have just been invented and they already seem to have 15 vendors in. But we're still seeing compromises.
Yes.
And not only are we still seeing compromises, we're still seeing them at the same rate, and we're still seeing them for the same things that we saw them for 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, how much of the reason customers rush towards things like AI is because of the industry marketing it, and how much of it is because of the industry failing to protect businesses, and therefore they're obviously going to still be looking for the thing that's finally going to save them?
You are absolutely bob on. This is a really interesting question. I'd love someone to actually do the research into it, because I think there's a bit of both. I've been buyer side and I've been vendor side. So I'm aware of both sides of that coin. On the vendor side, yes, you have to say the right buzzword, because dare I say there's a CEO or marketing director that says we have to have those buzzwords in. We have to compete on SEO and all the other bits. Get that. Let's go back to something which is my epiphany from February this year. And for those who are in the industry, you're about to have a bit of an acid test, and you guys know where I'm going to go with this. We invented computers back in the 1960s. And the Model Railway Club was right next door to the IBM PDP-1 that's installed at MIT. They literally stuck a hole through the wall, connected a cable through it, and stole cycles off that computer. That was back in 1969. Here we are in, if you want me to do the year 2023, where we have got nation-state actors, and we've got well-funded organisations stealing cycles off our IoT devices to do DDoSes. It is the same problem. We have not fixed anything in 60 years. We started with antivirus, then we realized that was probably a bit bad because, it doesn't really work. So then they call it anti-malware. Then they realized, that's signature-based, it's not very good. So they invented MDR, XDR, and all the other bits. Just change the name, same problem. Go back to the problem statement. What is it you're trying to fix? This is a fundamental thing that every CISO asks themselves, every consumer asks themselves, what is the problem I'm trying to fix? And as an industry, we don't fix.
Yeah.
We literally just put another thing on top and another one. And being vendor side, having to spend literally 8 figures to try and protect our organization and still getting hammered.
Well, this is the interesting thing, right? Because marketing get a really bad rap in this industry, but their job is literally to write what sells. Mm-hmm. So the problem for me has never been marketing. The problem for me has always been, why the hell is it selling?
Yes.
and I get what you're saying, but at the same time, when you move away from the dashboards and the buzzwords and everything else, there is some fantastic technology
100%
that is constantly being developed that underpins. Now, this technology, unfortunately, often sits across multiple vendors. Sometimes a vendor has 2 of the 3 bits of technology you need. Sometimes they only have 1. And so many vendors, look at the landscape at the moment when you've got companies like Palo and Cisco and CrowdStrike. They're buying up companies for this sort of security as a service play. So it's only going to get worse. You can't pin a vendor to a technology quite often these days. So how do we fix this? How do we get to the point of going, okay, what technologies do I need? And let's be honest, this is business specific. There's no perfect stack for any business, right?
Correct.
So how do we get to a point where we can look at the different types of, people, process, obviously, but also the technology that we need in order to be able to protect our business and sort of move away from the particular brand names, etc., which don't necessarily associate with the tech that we need.
Yeah. It sounds like I'm going to give you guys a plug here, but you are a really good example of being in that space right now. When you're in the CISO space and you're trying to fill that void, which is in that security testing, vulnerability management piece, all connects together. Why we have them as separate disciplines, I've never understood. Vulnerability management is sat there to find on my estate what is vulnerable, and on the second side is, and what happens if that is exploited. That's my red team, and that's my vulnerability. You munge them two together, you've got actually a lot stronger an entity within your business. Vendor side, they stick to their swim lane. We're very good at vulnerability management. Quality is a great product for doing that with. Then over here, we've got the pen testing space. But within that, there's too many fragmented disciplines. We've got people who are pen testers, but only in this one technology, because that's my specialism. Great. But don't try and market pen testing to me as a CISO or a deputy or whatever. Don't tell me you're a pen tester when you're only pen testing this tiny thing here. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, where the problem is. People are trying to conflate their skill set and their ability as a business to try and win business, because winning business is good, apparently. I think that's where I've got a problem, is people who are conflating what they're doing and actually not being honest with what they do. Tell me that I'm an expert in Java.
Yeah.
Pen testing, superb. We have got Java, great. You've got some work.
It's so often as well. It's not even necessarily security technology. So obviously we've applied AI to our business, not to whilst our focus is continuous security testing. It's not actually to deliver any security testing. Where we've applied AI is because we center our business on treating opportunities for vulnerabilities to enter systems and calling them security events.
Yes.
In order to process that much data, it wouldn't have been possible in 2021, 2022, because Correct. It involves reading the tickets and processing them. But that technology that we're building in is not security technology.
Yep.
It's the ability that in this today, we're able to automate what would previously been a manual process that would have priced everybody out because there'd be far too many people needed to be able to read the things and put them in the relevant buckets.
Yep.
But that's not necessarily security technology. And that, applying AI also applies to businesses themselves.
Yep.
They can go out and they can look at applying AI to reduce their headcount and also automate a bunch of things that need 100%. To get done on time, every time.
It's appropriate technology for its appropriate use. Where I guess my bugbear is when people just say, "Oh, we've got to do AI." Why?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a buzzword, and we've got to do it. If you don't have a reason to do it, don't shoehorn it in and say we're doing it. You use it for its right use. Mm-hmm. This is going back to cybersecurity is not a standalone discipline, and I can prove that because if you go back 20 years, we didn't have cybersecurity. There was no such thing as a CISO. It was called an IT director or a sysadmin. This whole thing was an IT issue. Oh, no, we're not IT. That says the industry. Yeah, we are. We are completely an IT issue. But what we're now seeing is because data is actually the underpin of a business, we're actually a business solution issue. Mm-hmm. That's actually what we're doing. We are enabling businesses, protecting business, protecting data. We're not cybersecurity as a discipline. I can cite Professor Danny Dresden, my academic lead. He will literally lecture you for weeks on this thing. This started from cybernetics. It's got nothing to do with our industry. Nothing at all. What is cybersecurity? Protection of data at rest or in transit. It's got nothing at all to do with pen testing, vulnerability management. That is the wrapper around protecting the data. If you're in the industry and you want to have a real kick in the face today, work out, if you're on the vendor side, have you today protected Mrs. Goggins from being attacked? If not, what the hell are you doing? If you are sat there selling this vaporware BS with its artificial intelligence, if you're literally going down the buzzword bingo to try and sell something because you need to satisfy a shareholder, get out of the industry because you are a faker and you're harming the end consumer, who is what we're supposed to be doing as an industry, protecting data at rest or in transit. If you're in this industry, yeah, we've actually fixed some stuff, and we can show you vulnerabilities, and like you guys doing, there's actually enabling in a pipeline. Keep going, keep doing that, because you can demonstratively show. I am protecting Mrs. Goggins. Her data is sat here secure.
I see that quite a lot. People, one of the problems with that, when I'm talking to people in interviews and pen testers who are looking for jobs, is that's not exciting. That is not something that for a lot of people makes them attracted to being in the industry, makes them passionate about their job. I used to say when I first got into cybersecurity that I was in this industry because I like robbing banks and breaking into prisons for a living, and that's really exciting and that's really fun. And I did that for a few years, and then I realised it wasn't changing anything, and it wasn't really benefiting anybody very much. Yeah.
What do you say, if you don't mind me asking? What do you say? I'm in this industry for what reason? Why are you in this industry?
Why am I in this industry?
Pay the mortgage.
No, I mean, to be honest, I think like most people, I fell into this industry. I feel like there's a bit of a divide in this industry. All of the younger folk are trying to break into it, and all of the older folk fell into it because of the sort of eras and the times that these things happened. I was definitely on the side of falling into it. But, I'll never forget I cut my teeth at NCC Group, as I think all three of us did. And I'll never forget my first day of rocking up and being given some training and being given a phone and saying, okay, you need to speak to some people about cybersecurity. I think for me, it just always struck the balance of, conversing with people and that sort of thing, but also the sort of the intellectual nature of cybersecurity and information security in general, really. Put those two together, and it gave me a career that I loved because it's person to person, but also gave me something that I was never going to understand fully and will therefore be on a lifelong mission of learning and development.
So, sorry to cut across you with that question. I was really interested to see, because obviously you two work really closely together. It was just interesting to see if you were on the similar pathway. Obviously, you're really excited by the industry in terms of robbing banks, but then you've realised actually you can make change. I think I'm on that pathway now. I think I started a bit of a combination of you. I've got no problems in saying I fell into this industry. Number one, I fell into it. But two, I also fell into it because of Kevin Mitnick. I read that story and went, that's actually really cool. The fact that something is used a gift of the gab to get into it. So my actually first job is sales. And then I probably never got out of it. But I think I'm now in your space, which is I want to make change. I want to actually make this industry stand for something. I want to actually protect somebody. And I actually have an inbox folder, and it's something which I'd recommend people do, is when you get a customer feedback like, my God, you've saved us, this would have career ended us, we wouldn't have a business day if it wasn't for you. I have a folder full of them, and I keep hold of them, and I remind myself regularly when I'm at that moment of, what the hell am I doing here? I go back and read those and go, okay, that's what I'm doing here. I think most people, especially on the vendor side, I think should really remember what we're in this for.
I think what we're in this for has matured a lot as well, especially over the last few years. Cybersecurity, the people who founded the industry, there were some absolutely brilliant people and very passionate people, don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of the people who were in this industry saw it as a puzzle that needed to be cracked rather than a problem that needed to be solved for the greater good and for the benefit of people. And I think now the next generation of people to be the cybersecurity leaders recognize that this is an opportunity for the greater good and not just for personal entertainment.
Totally agree.
That. But then on the flip side to that, I'd argue that it's become more of everybody solving a problem, and now it's become an arms race.
Also true. Yeah. 3 people trying to solve it because they want the first headline. I think we see this with, it's not so much now, and I'm grateful for this, is when we saw it with Heartbleed. That logo. And it had its own, where's its theme tune? That in the industry became a meme. But from externally, it was something to be ridiculed. I had friends who said, God, what are you guys doing? I mean, this is a major career end of a major businesses. We sat there and we spent time creating a logo before we went out with the release. No, get the release out there. It's more important. So yeah, I think there's a bit of that goes on as well. You're right with the arms race piece.
Definitely.
So onto the next area, maybe more towards the junior end of the spectrum.
Yep.
Exams and qualifications. Yeah. What do they do to the industry?
I think there's two pieces to that. First of all, yes, get yourself your qualifications, or at least go and get your education in it. We can all be passionate about it, but at some point you do have to study in this profession. We were at a Cytix event yesterday and they're championing the whole charter, and that's a completely different conversation. Definitely not for this podcast. But yes, go down the route of starting your studies off. One of the big things I always recommend when I do CV tips is you can go and study your CISP. You don't have to pass the exam. You can go and study. You can go and study your Sec Plus and your Network Plus. I also recommend go cross-discipline, get as wide as you can in this industry. And you guys know this because you've been through the pen test ring. When you sit in an engagement, you don't just hack one thing. You realize you have to go really far and wide. And you can only Google so much on a client engagement before you go, actually, I don't know. I think go far and wide with your certifications in terms of the learning side of it. Basing your career on the certificates, no, I'm not interested. And before we start slamming HR for putting them onto CVs, we'll take that one off the table. I think we all agree. Making a CV making a job spec based around you have to have these qualifications is not helpful in this industry. We all know amazing talent in this industry with no certificates. I'm one. My degree is in geography. It's going to get really cold tonight. Why? Because the cloud-based will move over. It's big code time tonight. That's more important, I think, having a discipline that's cross than having someone and I think that's the other thing we know. We also know people can pass every exam, but you won't put near a keyboard.
I spoke to I guess my question around this is going to be, okay, well, these things are obviously there to get people into employment, particularly on the junior side of the spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
To break into cyber, although I hate that term. And evidently the problem here is not a skills gap in terms of a lack of jobs. There are plenty of jobs, therefore skilled people. There's a difference between a junior looking for a job and someone with 2 years experience looking for a job. A huge difference.
Yep.
I spoke to a lady yesterday at CIISec who's been in the industry for 2 years, and what she described to me, she went to university. She even got a master's in information security. She did absolutely everything she could to get a job and took the first thing she found, which was identity and access management at a bank. It was just one of those jobs. Within a year, she's now moved into an area of cybersecurity that she already liked, that she quite liked. But the way she described it and the way she came across is just, outright tenacity. So my question is, or the talking point is, how, there's a lot of money, a lot of investment coming in from government into loads of different programs to sort of help bridge the gap. Yep. But for her, the gap wasn't really bridged, right? She's just gone and just done it the old-fashioned way and just worked really hard and got in there.
Yep.
So how successful are we being with all of these different programs, whether they're for, university students, college students, or even retrainers? We're seeing a bit of that now.
Yeah. It's a really big mixed bag out there. It really is. I've worked on a government-funded scheme, which got people jobs in cyber, and I was talking to someone yesterday who actually helped create some of the events. We created some of the most phenomenal events, which was great for the vendor as well as for the candidates. And it was literally, there's a live simulation, go play. And the assessors walking around will literally go, you have no idea what you're doing technically. We really like you to fit us culturally. And it goes down to a really interesting expression I was taught a while ago. And it was a company, and they said, look, we want people to juggle with starfish, but show me jugglers. We'll do the starfish bit, you do the jugglers bit. So we would find them jugglers, they would then essentially go and do this. And I think that's what we've got at cybersecurity. We've got people who, they like doing stuff. And because our industry is so greedy, and we've got everything from vulnerability management, GRC, blue team, purple team, red team, green team, yellow team, all the other colours in the middle, architecture, engineering, And then underneath that, you've got vulnerability engineering, vulnerability architect. Because we're so greedy and have all these multidisciplines, finding your home in it, there is a home for anyone. You like tech, come to cyber. There's a job for you. Flip side, though, the vendor or the person hiring you has to take a punt on that candidate. They're going, I see you're really good at engineering. We've got 16 different engineering departments. Where will you fit? And Dan, I've got all of them. And I think that's where my honest lean, as we stand this year, I would say is apprenticeships. So yeah, I think Cytix went across all the disciplines though, because, you know, like you two, if I stuck you in front of malware reversal, you might absolutely love it, digging right into the code and just working out and tear things apart. You might hate it. You don't know until you have a go. You might absolutely hate it, but actually you're good at it. That's another thing. We can be good at stuff and hate it. Now, I've had to deal with live incidents, proper big incident stuff. When you are sat in an incident, the last thing you want in that room is a hyper specialism who can fix one thing. You need generalists. You need someone who goes, hey, who built that system? In that Andy, right? Get Andy on the blower. Let's see why he built it that way. Oh, so before you go and fix it, you can actually break the entire infrastructure. Right? Okay. Well, let's hold off doing that. Let's fix this a different way. That's creative thinking. Critical thinking. That's, you know, we're using creativity skills here that they're not taught. It's not in your. It's not in your SANS course. It's not in your Sec Plus. And again, that's something which I always look for in CVs. You know, you've said something before about the cyber skills gap. Again, I agree with you. I don't think we have a skills gap at all. I think we have a very weird gap at the moment, which is I've got 11 CVs in my inbox right now. If anyone's hiring, I've got 11 people for you. Multidiscipline all over the show. We've got thousands of jobs, is it? Or was it 100 or 1,000 jobs this year in cyber? But why isn't this being matched together? The answer is there's a barrier in the middle, which is stopping these people being hired.
The backbone of any, you know, the backbone of any country, any industry are the SMEs, right? And whilst some of the big, you know, we talked before, the skills gap is quite obviously this, you know, people looking for people that have got the 2 years experience, have got that foundational knowledge. And the big companies, they can afford to bridge that gap and bring people in, and they do, most of them, right, to an extent. We're not saying there are no jobs; they're just very few. It's the smaller companies, you know, it's the smaller companies, whether that's in vendor land or whether that's, you know, in the general public. So the question is, are the programs that we're doing today, are people, you know, and there's plenty of them. I'm not going to name them, but there's plenty of them. The aim then, because you're not going to convince these businesses that they need to take underskilled people and train them up. You're not going to be able to do that.
No.
So what you have to be able to do is get people coming out that have got enough experience to be employed as a skilled worker, right? How are we going to do that? Well, or are we doing that? Are people coming out of these programs skilled enough to hold their own in a business? I mean, I would argue not, otherwise they'd be getting jobs.
I was going to say, he shook his head for the answers there. I think some schemes are better than others for giving you skilled talent. Some of them, people pay an awful lot of money to go through these months-long things and they come out of it.
Sometimes their own money as well.
Yeah, and they don't know as much as they could have done if they just sat on YouTube.
Correct.
There is a lot of free, really, really good channels out there on YouTube who can show you everything you need to do in this career in any part of this discipline. And I think that's why I have a bit of I've seen a scheme recently. It was £13,000, and you come out of it, you get 3 qualifications, and I kind of start thinking, but are they useful?
It's not qualifications, is it? That's not what people are hiring you for. Like, the qualifications experience are great to have, but they need you to show up and operate the tool. They need you to show up and do the job. Your qualification is not going to do the job for you. So if you can't demonstrably, as you put it earlier, do the job,
demonstrably,
then you're not going to do it. And you know, we can dress this up with qualifications, etc. It's very, very simple. You don't get the job because you don't have the skills to do the job, or you're not perceived to have the skills to do the job. You know, so unless we can fix that, forget all of the other, because qualifications is a solution of sorts, right? It's an attempt to solve the problem. It's not working. So we need to remove that and think of something else.
CV tips for anyone who's listening who wants to brush up their CV. I want to see your SourceForge account, your GitHub account. I want to see your blog. I want to see what you're working on. I want to see a photos of your home setup. I want to see your network diagrams for your home setup. I want to see how you pen test. I want to see how you've secured it. I want to see that. Show me that on a CV. Anyone worth their salt reading that CV will go, wow, okay, you know what you're doing, because you can demonstrate it. Let's go move away from the word. We can demonstrate it. I can see your passion. I can see what you like and what you don't like. I can see how I'm going to use you as an individual. If you come to me and go, I've got Sec Plus, great qualification by the way. Do Sec Plus? It's a really good qualification. But I've got the Sec Plus. And what have you done with it? Nothing. I'm working in a pub. Okay, well, what have you done outside of it? If you can't show me that, I can't.
What skills did you learn in it?
Well,
and can you demonstrate those skills outside of that exam paper?
I think that's a key thing as well. It is the skills, not the knowledge, in a lot of these courses, because you are not going to get an entry level job in cybersecurity knowing everything that you need to know in order to be able to deliver the job. But you do need to be able to come, and I see a lot of people who don't have this capability, having done some fancy degrees and courses and all sorts of things. They don't come in with an understanding of how you go out and you find that information when you're actually on the job. A pen tester's best friend is Google. That is a fundamental tool, way more important than Nessus or Mmap or anything else. Is to be able to Google and to be able to go out and actually find the information. And when I speak to a lot of people, I've interviewed like hundreds of pen testers over the years, you can really tell the difference between the ones that are going to make it and the ones that aren't. By the fact that the ones that are going to make it, during their technical assessments and during their conversations will say, this is where I go to find this information. This is how I find this information. Whereas the other ones are like, well, I wasn't able to run this tool because it was a bit of an obscure circumstance, and that's not what that blog said, and therefore I was stopped. I was stunted by that because it doesn't quite follow the exact path. And I think that's particularly a problem in cyber, but I'm sure it's a problem in most industries. But because what we know today is not going to be true in a couple of weeks or months or a year's time. The technology is advancing so fast that I think the skill to find the answers is fundamental, and the actual answers themselves are pretty irrelevant.
I also think hiring managers stop hiding behind your HR teams. Go and actually speak to the candidate. Like you do, you speak to your candidates directly. If you've got 300 CVs of, so they've done the pre-filters to who is allowed to work for you, because there's some, I don't know, in some organizations you've got to have certain clearances or locations. Once you've got that next candidate base, give that 300 CVs to your hiring manager. I know for some IT directors and cyber directors out there, they're going to absolutely panic at this next comment. But you go through them, because your HR team only knows up to a certain point. They're going to go off a tick list. By looking at that, wow, really like that one. They've got no skills in cyber, but what a candidate. I'd hire them in seconds. Well, go and have a chat with them. Go and have a half-hour chat with them and work out what you like and don't like. Yeah, that's a much more intelligent conversation. And you're going to find some brilliant talent out there. Someone who's got a geography degree, done a bit of compliance, done a bit of this, done a bit of that, been in the industry 20 years, but no qualifications in cyber. I will not get through anyone's CV filter right now.
Yeah.
But would you hire me? Well, I know you guys will say no because you hate me, but that's fine. But
the what you said before though about apprenticeships, because if you actually are looking to solve the problem, and without asking for change in hiring managers is, I would say, optimistic.
It's doable.
But the way that the way that you fix the problem quickly is that when hiring managers look at a CV and they don't see any experience, that immediately creates a slight red flag, shall we say, or an orange flag. But apprenticeships are a great way of fixing that.
100%.
Because if you can train on the job, it's worked for probably hundreds of years. You know what I mean? It's a tried and tested method. It's just not that available to people in cybersecurity for some reason, where you learn the job. I did a degree program at university where we did 2 years work, 1 year in company, and then 1 year's university. Don't remember a lot of them. 1 year's university and then 2 years in company while studying. I did it with Barclays. We're in their building right now. And that, it's invaluable. I wrote my degree on Barclays, pretty much. I wrote most of the papers I did on Barclays because that was the route that we took in. And I just, and all this money comes into so many, I've seen programs to help entry-level people, and not programs themselves, but in terms of types of programs and ideas, like so many.
Yeah.
But actually, training on the job, shall we say, instead of calling it an apprenticeship, but training on the job has to be the best way.
We know it works because you go to any other industry which does this and it works. For example, you take your car into a garage, there's normally a kid knocking around who loves spanners and getting covered in grease every day, hanging upside down underneath the car, ripping the J-bar off the underside of your car. They're an apprentice. Give them a year in that, suddenly there's a mechanic, somebody's the guy who fixes your car. We know it works. Why are we so reticent to have it inside? I have
just take the money from everywhere else and just go, we're just going to put it all into something fairly simple, which is subsidizing businesses to take on cybersecurity apprentices.
SMEs can tap into, companies pay an apprenticeship levy.
Yeah.
So if you don't spend that apprenticeship levy, it goes into a central pot and it can be refunded out to SMEs. That exists. So if you two wanted to hire an apprentice tomorrow, you can tap into other people's apprenticeship levy money and fund an apprentice, or part fund it at least.
Yeah.
So does it work? Yes. When you get to enterprise level, Tesco's and Barclays, etc., create your academy.
Yeah.
We know they work. Industry level corporate level academies work because what they'll do is they'll stick someone through a variety of programs, and an engineer is now on a marketing scheme going, God, I'm really good at wordsmithery.
Yeah.
We know they work. So why aren't we doing them?
And you know what? You see it on the sales side because we've all seen Sunak's next job in cyber, bollocks around that COVID era. I've had technical folk with master's degrees applying for sales roles. Why? Because they're trying to break into the industry and they're like, I'll take any job. And by any job, they're like, I'll take a sales role. Like, do you know what I mean? And whilst that's great from their perspective, it puts a very damp light on pathways available to people.
I agree.
I mean, you talk about levies and all these things, but like they don't care about that. They're just like, what are my pathways? Oh, there isn't any.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think there
is a pathway. Sorry, it's going to cost me $13,000.
Yeah. And the other thing is we also have a lot of people who are in these organisations that create pathway diagrams, and they're all different. If you go down this route or that vendor route or this training company's route, you're going to see 6 different pathways to get to the end pen tester role or whatever the role is. That doesn't help. And I think, again, this comes right back to what we said initially. If you start inventing these wonderful things because it seems to be the right thing to do this week, no wonder the consumer out there is like going, it's not for me. Why do people still have password 123 as their password? Because we make it hard for anyone to engage with this entire industry.
And then when you throw in that a good portion of the people that we're talking about here are neurodiverse, then the whole thing just falls down, right?
Yeah, that's. You need to get somebody else on the podcast for them because I'll rant. Absolutely on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, well, I was going to move on a little bit to hopefully you repeating what your job title is because I've forgotten it, and then maybe talking a little bit about what you're trying to do in the Manchester ecosystem.
Cyber Ecosystem Project Manager. It's a great job title. What does that actually mean? So I work within a facility called DISH, which is the Digital Security Hub, which you guys have got space in. It's a co-working space in Manchester. I've worked all over the show. We're doing this job of cybersecurity, and to keep coming back to Manchester, there's probably a reason. I like Manchester as a city for many reasons, and there's one of them is, and it's going to be a bit of a tangential story, so bear with me. I lived in London for 4 years, and great job down there, really loved my job, did all sorts of stuff down there, including recruitment, actually. And I remember moving back up to to Manchester and I had a full-size rucksack, one of the really big ones, my entire life possessions and a couple of holdalls with me as well. And I got to Manchester Piccadilly train station. I was looking around trying to think, what platform do I have to go to get to my next train? This old boy says, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah." "Where are you going?" "You about to scale K2. And I'm on my way home. I'm just moving back home. You're like, "Fancy beer?" No idea who this guy was. "Fancy beer?" An hour later, 4 pints down, this guy told me his life story. I told mine. Best of mates for that few hours sat in a pub. There's a thing about Manchester where we love to chat to other people, get on the skin of everyone's stories, because you find the new mates. You go to a pub, you always come out with a new mate. You go in with 6 people, the 7 walk out. Where did that extra one come from? We never know. And is it in the water? Is it in the air? I have no idea. Commercially, though, we see it stronger. So we have things like, why did GCHQ take space in Manchester? Is it because it was cheap? Is it because they had cheap workforce? No, it's because of what's here. There's a collaboration piece. There's a massive student hub. There's a whole set of other cyber businesses that can tap into. And they can work with them. They can tap into them all. I sit in at Dish and I'm doing, maybe some business mentoring, and then someone will come and join the conversation. So I'm like, you two just need to talk. I'm walking away from the table now. That is why Manchester is such a powerful force. And in this industry, you look at any of the major takedowns we've ever done, any of the big botnet takedowns, it's never done by one company. Microsoft worked with Google and this and that and that. That's how we do takedowns. If we're actually going to fix some stuff in this industry, you cannot do it on your own. You're going to have to make friends in other businesses who can complement what you do, and you'll get your big wins. If you want to make money, you want to actually try and be successful as a business and make a stamp on the world, collaborate. Don't try and do it on your own. You will not succeed. And that's from everywhere I've ever worked, from NTC to all the other businesses I've worked at. It's only ever been successful when we had that extra 1, 2, 5, 10 companies involved every single time. I don't know, you guys, you've been pulled into all sorts of stuff. Brilliant. Keep doing that. That's my business advice. Mentoring on camera. Keep doing that. You will become successful the more that you actually connect. And that's what Manchester is best for. You can have 2 rival football teams and they will hate each other to death. They'll still go to work the following morning and talk footy with each other around the table. Opposing fans still talk to each other. That's something Manchester does really, really well. Better than London, better than Birmingham, better than Edinburgh. Far, far better. There's something here that's different, and it's that collaboration piece.
Perfect. I think on that note, we'll probably leave it there. So thanks for coming in, Stu.
You all right? More than welcome. Good luck, guys.